Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming to this show today. So today we have a really special guest. She is one of the best in the Baltimore County. Her name is Shalynn Mills-Arasami, and she's part of Integrity Homes, and she created actually a brokerage that's rated as one of the best Christian-owned brokerages in the county. And so I just wanted to introduce her to you guys, and then we're going to talk a lot about some unique things. One is like some special programs that's out in the Baltimore County area. Also, she recently was rated one of the best in Baltimore County. So, what does that feel like for her, and how does that distinguish her and separate her from everybody else, as well as how she's seeing the market right now in the Baltimore County area of Maryland. So, Shalynn, can you just share a little bit about yourself and how you got started? Why did you decide to kind of promote yourself as a Christian-based real estate firm, as well as how you got started in the whole industry?
Oh, wow. Thanks so much for having me, by the way. As
Yeah.
Chris mentioned, my name is Shalynn Mills-Arasami. I happen to be the broker and owner of Integrity Home Team, where we're Maryland's #1 Christian-owned real estate brokerage. And then simply what that means is that when people do business with us, they can expect three things: fairness, honesty, and most of all, integrity. When
Mm.
you're buying or purchasing a home, it's probably one of the largest purchases or transactions you'll ever make. So we want to make sure that you're not just getting knowledgeable realtors, but you're also getting people who are guided by kingdom principles and also working with realtors who always have your best interest at hand. So the way I got started is actually pretty funny. Okay. I,
All
I
right.
wish I would say I always wanted to be a real estate agent. This was my dream job. Guys, it was not. So my degree is actually in forensic science. I have a degree in that. And I
Okay.
went to school for 6+ years. And after one time in the DNA lab, I say, you know what? This is not for me. I'm out of here. And so what happened was I took a real estate course for 3 months, and that was actually 16 years ago. And I've been here ever since. So I started in real estate because I love to help people. And
Mm.
quite frankly, if you know forensic science, you can't help them, they're already dead. But you can be able to help your consumers. And so
Yeah.
my goal is that when I'm working with every buyer and every seller, that they're getting a superb experience. And once
Mm.
again, that's guided by integrity. I love what I do. I don't know what else I would do. And so it's always been my passion to help people achieve their dream, whether it be a homeowner, whether it be an investor, or whatever that real estate goal is with these.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. I love the word integrity because it reminds me, um, the root word of integrity means whole. And that's how, in math, and I love math, the word integer also means a whole number. And the way I always remembered integrity is you are whole, as in like whatever you say at the beginning and at the end, it should always match. Whatever you do externally and internally, it should match and it should equal as well. So I want to ask you, like, is that why you decided to kind of lean into the word integrity? Because maybe you experience some folks in the industry, or maybe in your life that didn't have as high of an integrity, and you felt like that was a very core and critical piece.
Well, Chris, I actually never looked at it like that. And that's the first time I've heard the explanation of equating it to an integer. Um, I feel like when you do one thing is how you do everything.
Hmm.
So for me, I've always judged integrity by what you do when no one is watching.
Yeah.
Or do
Yeah.
you consistent with your character? Are you kind even when you're not in front of a client or buyer or seller? What are you like behind the scenes? And so
Hmm.
I believe how you are personally will kind of spill over to how you also are professionally. Since I was a child, integrity for younger was do what I say.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to do something, then do it. And if you
Yeah.
can't, then let us know. So for me, it's more so a personal core value that I believe that if you're committing to something, if you are saying this is the task or the goal that I'm working towards, then that's what you should be working towards and putting your best forward, whether it's inspected or not, whether it's something that's comfortable, it doesn't matter. You have to have integrity, and that's doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
Hmm.
Real estate has become one of the most scrutinized industries because a lot of times consumers think that we're out just to make a sale, that we put the sale or their commission before our clients. And
Hmm.
quite frankly, if you're dealing with the real estate agent who has that kind of mindset, then that's not the realtor for you. I like to think of that we are, realtors and privileged to be a realtor. And so that means always having our clients' best interests at heart, whether it's comfortable for us or not.
I love that. I love that. It's because, like, and it goes to the area around that a lot of folks don't understand the real estate industry of all the components that go to it. I mean, even for me, before I bought my first home and actually entered into this area, I thought a realtor, all they did was show me homes. And then, at the beginning, they were just sending me kind of like listing in their
Oh
private portal.
gosh.
I'm like, isn't this the same as Zillow? Like, what else are you doing? But then as you learn, you realize, no, there's so many, that's just the icing, right? It's like there's
It's
so many
just
components of negotiating, so many components of understanding, like, okay, what is important to you, and finding homes in that area, and then identifying based on your experience, is that home actually good or not? There's going to be things that you see that's not shown in pictures, or based on the area, oh, a certain elevation at a certain point, and water's going to be coming down because you're at the lower end, and a new homeowner would never understand or think about that. And so there's so many things, and I think that's the key thing, is like a really, really good realtor uh, is not for the quick buck. It's all for that individual, to make sure, because you want that person to find joy and happiness in
mhm,
the home that they buy. And that's what I love
absolutely.
about you, is you always bring joy every time we speak to each other and we talk about things. Like, you are exuding this joy. And so I want to ask you, like, where do you get that joy? Like, are you just always excited to just be like, hey, I want to help everybody out, come over here, I want to
You
give you a
know
big
what?
hug.
There's a scripture I use: "The joy of the Lord is my strength," and that's
Mm,
exactly what it is. I can say I've been blessed to live my dream life, and it's in living my dream life that I feel good about helping other people
mm,
achieve their goals, and that's what buyers and sellers and investors are like. When I started in real estate again, which was 16 years ago, I'll kid you not, I was broke. Okay, I couldn't
mm,
even get a library card,
mm.
and I couldn't qualify, for anything. And I felt the pressure of not having a good credit profile and not having strong income. And so what I did was I focused on improving myself, and through that, I'm able to share that same
Mm.
goal and that same target with my clients, so that my clients don't have those same challenges. I believe we all go through a valley to help other people overcome their valleys. And
Amen.
because of what I experienced, the hardships, guess what? I didn't learn about credit till it was time for me to buy my home. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought automatically everyone woke up with an 800 credit score. I, I had no idea what TransUnion was, what Experian, because quite honestly, those weren't conversations that we had across the dinner table. And so as I learned more about credit and I was able to purchase my first home, I made a promise to myself that any consumer that I work with, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I'm able to help make that process easier for them by sharing the nuggets and tips that I learned personally. I wish I could say I learned credit because I studied it. I didn't. I was actually the test dummy. Okay, I learned not to increase my credit cards. I learned the 20/30 rule. I learned those things, and so I'm able to carry and give that same information to my consumers and help them become more knowledgeable. I always tell the story when I graduated from college. Funny enough, my credit was destroyed with a Bob Marley T-shirt. So on campus, there were actually these credit card companies that were Visa, Discover,
Yeah.
MasterCard. They would actually sit on our campus and say, for a free t shirt, sign up for a credit card. Well, you guys, guess what? That credit card cost me over I'm sorry, that t shirt cost me over $4,000.
Man.
Okay. So
Man.
I learned a lot from that. And I promise you, when we start to work together, there won't be a $4,000 t shirt.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah, I remember that too. Like, man, but it sounds so good. But I think, to your point, like, they don't teach us any of this stuff at school. It's so
They don't.
unfortunate. It's, you would think, like, I remember, I mean, way back in the days going to college, you would expect that they would prepare you to get a job, prepare you to, be a grown up, right?
Mhm.
Start adulting and everything. And they don't teach you anything. They take you through the courses, they give you your diploma, and they're like, figure it out, good luck.
Exactly.
And it's so unfortunate, because I in a way, like I think what you're saying is it should be a mandatory thing to teach every American, every human being, like this is
Absolutely.
how to get home ownership. If home ownership is one of the most important things as, quote unquote, the American dream, why isn't it part of the curriculum to teach them like, okay, this is how you own a home, this is how you build credit, this is how you manage finances, but they don't teach you any of that. They don't even teach you how to interview.
They don't.
I mean,
They don't. They don't.
you think you're going to a college to get a job, but they don't even teach you how to get a job. They're
They
like, here's the
don't.
diploma.
Nope.
And I think,
You're on your own.
to your point, it's like it's up to us through this platform, through this medium of trying to educate and share with the public, like this is the right way to do it. We have to, if you never been educated in this realm, it's to start thinking and start preparing and opening your mind. Because this is one thing I realized, and I'm sure you've come across this too, is um, folks that are really unaware of this domain, they unfortunately they come here with a closed mindset
Hmm.
rather than an open mindset of, okay, I'm coming to learn. But it could be maybe, they were taken advantage of, and so they're very protective and sheltering themselves. So I want to ask you, like, what do you want to share with consumers out there that are kind of like little tentative, like, I don't know who to trust. I mean, the internet is I call it the bathroom wall because you can mark it up, and just throw it out there, right?
I've never heard that before. I love it though.
So like, I mean, folks, I hope, they trust us as, trustful resources, but what would you share with a consumer that are starting to like look and starting to research about home ownership? What's the one or two things you want to share with them? Say, hey, these are the first things that you should really consider and be serious about.
Yeah, I would certainly recommend, of course, I'm a little biased, is starting with a good real estate agent. And how do you figure out who's the right one to work with?
Hmm.
Google your realtor, Google. So all realtors now have a Google database where they can have several reviews online.
Yeah.
We've been blessed and had the opportunity to be a five-star Google rated company. And as Chris mentioned before, we were nominated one of Baltimore's top 40 realtors in Baltimore. In fact, it wasn't something that we were just paid money and given that position, but we
Which
were
you
not.
could, right? Some of those magazines.
Yeah. So the magazine will be out next month. All right. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
exciting. That's exciting. But we were actually nominated, which means that there's a poll that's taken from people in Baltimore to say, hey, who's the top real estate agent? And again, God, gave us a favor and we were awarded top 40.
That's
So
awesome.
those kind of accolades also help to confirm which direction you want to move forward with a realtor. You certainly don't want to work with someone who has a reputation that's not a positive one, or one that's where they're not also a high producing
Hmm.
performer either. But most importantly, in this kind of market for a buyer or a seller, as I would say, determine your budget. So we
Hmm.
all know that the interest rates are slightly higher than what they've been
Hmm.
before. When I bought my first house, guess what? The rates we have now are actually the rate I had when I first bought my home.
Me
So
too.
it's okay, it's normal. It's normal, okay? So last year we had a good miracle, okay? But now
Yeah.
we're back out, we're not on 34th Street anymore. We're
Yeah.
now on the ground, okay? So if you're buying houses right now for a higher interest rate, determine your affordability. What can I really afford as a buyer? And so
Mm.
I like to tell my clients, you want a smooth transition. So if you're paying $1,200 a month in rent, maybe you want to go up to 1,500. Maybe it's not a good idea to jump from 1,300 to 2,300.
Hmm.
So you really want to determine your affordability. I would also figure out for sellers what's more important for me. Is it important for me to sell right now or to wait a little while to capitalize on the equity inside of my home?
Mm.
One great thing I'm recommending that you do, whether you're a buyer or a seller, is work together to buy the interest rates down.
Mm.
Yes, rates are high, but guess what? If you partner with the buyer or we as realtors are able to help negotiate something called a buy down, which is our industry term for how we take money from the seller and help give it to the buyer to lower that interest rate, it's a win win for everyone. This way, the buyer can qualify for their home, and this way, the seller can get their home so much quicker.
I You're the first so far to bring it up in this scenario where you said the seller can partner with the buyer. This is the first time me hearing that. I want if you can just elaborate more because that's peeking into a little bit about your approach and your framework on how to position the sale or purchase of that transaction. Can you talk a little bit more about like why do you say partner? Because most people, it's like I'm a listing agent, I'm a buying agent, and it's almost like negotiating war. And hopefully, there's a win-win at the outcome. But the way your position is to the seller right now is like, no, you have to. It's a team. And I can see what you're saying is like, you can't sell this home unless you find a teammate who wants to buy this home.
Exactly.
They're
Exactly.
only always thinking about, I want to sell this home. I want to maximize on my equity profit and my equity proceeds. But can you elaborate a little bit more? Why
Sure.
do you say it that way? You must
So
have some experience why it didn't
I
work out the
do.
other way.
I do. And I'll tell you, if this were, January or February early this year, it was actually a seller's market. The
Hmm.
sellers could literally leave the house and all the kids and the cats and the buyer would grab the home. But that's not happening. The
Yeah.
market has now stabilized and competition has decreased, which means it's an equal playing field for everyone. And I believe in
Mm,
fairness, so that's a good thing. Now, from the seller's perspective, sellers are saying, well, I'm not going to get a high value on my home anymore. You may not be able to get the maximum home sales for your home price, sales price for your home. But, and one of the things that I work on, I encourage my sellers, let's give the buyer a small fee. So remember, sellers would typically give buyers closing costs. All
mm-hmm.
right. There are programs to actually help with those closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of giving those monies towards closing costs, I'm actually encouraging my sellers to give the buyer money towards buying the interest rate down. So if
Mm,
the rate is 7%, then
mm-hmm.
you're giving the buyer funds to reduce that rate from a 7% to maybe a 6, which
Mm-hmm.
helps the buyer to qualify and which also helps you to sell your home much quicker. When I work with, buyers and sellers and listing agents alike, I start off the conversation. Listen, you're not the DA. I'm not the prosecutor. Okay. We're not on the court of law here. Okay. We're going to do whatever it takes to help this be a win win, not just for your client, but for my client as well. And that's just one of the ways Integrity Home Team is a little bit more creative. A lot of people figure out, let's let the home sit on the market and we'll see what happens. Well, we don't want to just list your house. We want it to sell. And so that's
Yeah.
one of the ways we're able to get your home sold quicker.
I mean, I have so many questions I want to ask now, but I'll first start with the end piece of the Integrity Home team. So obviously, when a buyer or seller comes to work with the Integrity Home team, it's not just you. I saw there's at least a dozen
Yeah.
real estate agents that you have partnered with to join in this, and you are the main broker for Integrity Home team. But how do you train, or can they have confidence that it's not just with Shalynn, but it's with everybody, that they have this mindset of, number one, we're partnering during the transaction. There's going to be integrity in anybody that I work with. Like, how would you explain to the consumer market right now, like you can have confidence in that?
Okay, and that's actually a good question. Thanks for asking that. Well, I will say this: the first 8 weeks when an agent joins our company, they're partnered with me.
Mm,
Aren't they lucky, right? They're
yeah.
partnered with me, and that's because I want to ensure that the knowledge that I have and experience is also able to be communicated to that agent. And so, a lot of times in larger companies, they kind of just throw new agents into trainings and with fancy names, but they don't get the one-on-one attention.
Yeah.
Every new agent that joins our company, not only is there 8 weeks of training to teach them practicality and fundamentals, but we also have success coaches that work with all of our new realtors on one-to-one basis. Every week they're
Mm,
having meetings. I can tell you the larger brokerages, you're probably just a name or a number, but we want to ensure not just that the transaction has integrity, but we also want to ensure that it's knowledgeable and that the agent you're working with can provide you the best service.
that's awesome. So when you were working with them, are you working with them together on each and every deal for those first 8 weeks, or is it where if something, there's a question, they could always reach out to you if they're partnering with somebody else on the team? Like, how does that work within your organization?
So inside of our company, we have a success coach. The success coach is actually partnered with every new realtor for their first 3 transactions. And they
Okay.
also act as a mentor on an ongoing basis. Because
Okay.
obviously, I can't be available for 18 plus people. But
Yeah.
actually, our success coach, they've actually been licensed realtors for over 20 years. And so
Mm.
their combined knowledge and expertise is something that our agents are able to capitalize on.
Oh, that's awesome. So, man, you went from barely affording a library card to now having a team of 18 plus. That's just phenomenal. I mean, that's a true
God is
blessing
good,
right
Chris.
there. Yeah, amen to that. So in terms now switching gears to one thing that you kind of shared about in regards to when you are coaching the seller, because I think that's kind of the theme that you go for, right? It's like you are the sideline coach, not just a listing selling agent for the seller, but you are coaching them through this process on how to, number one, position their home correctly and to maximize on the sale, but also like what to think about when they're positioning it. So you talked about some programs that are assisting or helping for closing costs. Can you allude and share a little bit more about that? Because I know that in Baltimore County, there are some specific, really great programs that I don't think a lot of people know about. And they're kind of going into the market,
Yeah,
with a blanketed general, like, oh, I need to save, I need to do this. But they can qualify for some amazing programs up to $10,000 of closing costs and down payment assistance that some of them they don't even have to pay back. And it's
exactly.
it's amazing and they don't even know about it. They just walk by buying these homes when they should have just see if they qualify. So can you share a little bit more about those programs?
Sure, sure. Not only am I a realtor, but I believe in savings. I love coupons. Okay. So I'm probably the person in the front of the line that's pulling out all the coupons, and you guys are standing in line like, will she get in the back? So I
There
take
there
that.
are digital coupons now,
They
Shaylin.
are okay. Well, I have to get up to speed. Okay. I'm still holding up the line, cutting things out. All right. And my son, who's 12, he's like, Mom, you have the money. I don't care. I want to save it.
That's awesome.
And so I transfer that same, enthusiasm for coupons over to my clients. I also want to help them save. You guys, there are several great programs, not just in Baltimore County, because we also serve the surrounding counties, but there are several great programs for not just first-time home buyers, but also repeat buyers. One of
Mm,
the programs that a lot of people are just not taking advantage of, and I just don't know why, is called the Maryland Mortgage Program. The
mm-hmm.
Maryland Mortgage Program will allow a first-time buyer or a repeat home buyer, with some restrictions, of course, to purchase a home and give a contribution of 5% towards their down payment or their closing costs. Someone's going to say, Shaylin, tell me what that looks like in layman's terms. Okay, get the money. Okay. So what's happened is that when you qualify for Maryland Mortgage Program, and it's very easy, very easy. There's literally a link you take to take your home buying course online. The Maryland Mortgage Program, which is governed by the state of Maryland, will actually give you 5% towards your down payment and your closing costs for buying anywhere in Maryland, anywhere.
Mm,
And so if you're buying a house that's, $300,000, that's actually $15,000 that the state of Maryland is giving you. I mean, it's
man,
a great opportunity.
free money.
Um, I certainly don't know why people are not capitalizing on this. And then, of course, we go into the different programs that Baltimore County has another program called the SALT program. That's another $10,000. You guys can stack these programs. Somebody say, show me the money. Okay. You can stack these programs. So you're getting 15,000 from Maryland Mortgage Program, another 10,000 from Baltimore County. Right there, you guys, that's $25,000. And then someone's going to say, what about my student loans? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a new program called Maryland Smart Buy, where again, the state of Maryland is giving you $45,000 to pay off your student loans and to buy a house. Check that out. Where
Wow.
was it when I was buying a house?
Yeah.
$45,000. And these programs are all available online. If we have anyone that's streaming in from Baltimore City has several grants. $10,000 for buying anywhere in Baltimore City, $2,500 if you're a state worker, another $10,000 if you're completing a program called the Trolley Tour. There are several grants available. And what I do as your licensed real estate agent is I help to structure the deal because the goal is to have my client come out of pocket with the least amount of money. I have a funny story. One of my clients bought a house last year, and actually April of this year, and I started working with her 2 years ago. And by the way, we have a program called Ready Start, where we help you get ready to start. So if your score
I
is
love that.
not at a 600 or your score is not, a shiny nipple, I should say, then we put programs to place to help you buy in either 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. Well,
Mm,
this young lady came through that program, And I personally worked with her for about a year and a half. And literally, when she went to the bank to get a cashier's check to bring for her closing, the check was for $439. And even the bank teller said, "Are you buying a house today?" And she was like, "Yeah, $439." I wish I would have kept the screenshot because I was even shocked. So this young lady actually stacked her programs. She was able to get funds from the state of Maryland, combined with the grant from Baltimore City. Literally, she came to the table for buying her house $439. So if you're
Man,
sitting on the fence right now, you're saying,
and a
"I
car
don't have
payment.
any money." I'm going to say right now, I promise I can show you the money.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a I love the programs because it's not like one of those coupons where they're like only limited to one and you can't combine this coupon
Yes,
with the other coupon. It's like, no, you can stack it
stack them.
to maximize the benefits. I mean, I think this is so important, especially like you and myself and the minority demographic of that we come here not knowing any of these programs, and we have to publicize and market as much as we can to help our fellow African Americans as well as Asian community. Like there's programs out here that you can take advantage of. You just
Absolutely.
have to be patient. We can walk you through it so
Mhm.
that you can maximize and capitalize on these benefits. It's not, and that's the thing is like, it goes back to kind of something that you shared earlier about this wasn't something that was kind of shared and taught to at the dinner table. You know, we're learning it now, and it's almost like we're taking on the responsibility for our community to share
We
it
are.
with everybody. Like there's benefits and programs like this out there, and you just have to be patient to just, learn it. Be open-minded to learn it. Yes, is it going to require some paperwork? Absolutely, because nobody
Absolutely.
is going to give
Mhm.
you $25,000 for free without going through the paperwork and the
That's right.
documentation. But I mean, if you do the math in terms of how much, like how much you're going to earn per hour,
Exactly. Exactly.
I think the hourly rate for a 25K for the application and stuff is pretty high,
It
right?
is. It is. I want to can fill out an application. I'm kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's the thing, too,
Uh,
if you think about this, I mean, a lot of people think, well, my income is too high for these programs. The highest income, or roughly, if your income is less than 147,000 a year, you qualify.
yeah,
I mean, that's a huge income gap. I mean,
yeah,
most first time buyers I know earn less than $147,000 a year.
exactly.
So we could
That
take
and
out that.
that and a lot of folks they don't understand because I think it comes from a very uh old mentality, or maybe their parents back in the days shared how they bought their home and stuff
Hmm.
like that, and those myths weren't broken. Like one easy myth is, um, if they think that they need, if they're married, they feel like both couples have to be on the loan, both couples
Hmm.
have to be in order to qualify, but that's not the case. If you can
Correct.
qualify with one individual, just qualify with one individual, which means they could also probably qualify for those programs, as
Exactly.
well as then you just put the other spouse on the title and deed. So one spouse owns all the debt and everything, and the other one gets the benefit of just owning the home, right? And then
Hmm.
the other one is like you don't need 20% down. I don't know how many times I have to educate people like, no, like, and they think,
Yeah.
well, PMI is too high. It's like, no, it's not. Like I just priced one out in Montgomery County, $500,000 home. The PMI is $50.
Wow.
$50. Like it's
Wow.
not hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And so and they're putting, less than 10% down. It's like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And so
That's awesome.
it's just to educate folks like you have to be open-minded and don't think you know everything. Like we are the specialists. Just come and ping us. I'll leave Shaylynn's contact info right below. I'll even leave her cell phone number so you can text her all these questions.
Oh boy.
Um, and we're here to just help answer and educate. I think that's the very first thing that we want to do because
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the one of the biggest components of integrity is educating, is coaching, to let them like understand and level them up in terms of like what they should know to buy this home.
Mhm.
So with that, I want to ask you to level up our consumers and our audience out there. Is like how can buyers first, and then we can move into the sellers. But how can buyers right now best position themselves as we're heading into the Christmas season, as we're heading into the holidays? I know that inventory is going to be a little bit lower because, I mean, it's lower than a little bit lower in terms of activity because people, they don't want to move during the holidays, right? But like, what would you say to a buyer that's like, but, my lease is coming up, or, something's coming up and I need to buy a home in December, January, February? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, believe it or not, it's a really good time to buy. If
Okay.
I were a buyer, this time of year with low inventory and the market now being stable is actually a good time to purchase because there's less competition. And
Mm,
so most buyers that are placing offers on homes right now, with it being around November, are actually not settling until January. So
mm.
this way, the seller has an opportunity to stay in their home for Thanksgiving and December, and you also have an opportunity to start maybe saving a little bit more and then moving your place probably January 2023.
Mm.
I would also say if you're a buyer thinking about purchasing now, do not shop with your credit cards for Christmas. Okay.
That's a
Okay.
good tip. That's a
I
good
would
tip.
take those I personally, I don't carry my credit cards with me. They're in a small drawer tucked away under my husband. Okay. He does not want me to use those cards.
You
But
don't freeze it in
seriously,
the ice. I saw those things. You got to chip it away.
exactly. You're exactly right. And so, what I would say is if you're preparing to purchase a home, remember your credit card utilization, we want to keep that low. So, credit
Yeah.
card utilization is how much of your credit limit are you spending?
Mm.
I will say usually November, December is when we see those utilizations
Oh,
start
yeah.
to, they spend over probably 10, 24 times. Okay.
Hmm.
So we don't want that to happen. Put that credit card somewhere until you're actually needed for an emergency and have those balances 20 to 30% below your credit limit.
Mm.
What does that mean? If your credit limit is $1,000 on that card, that means at any time you should have no more than $200 on that card.
Hmm.
Once you start to charge more than 50% of your credit limit, it actually brings your credit score down. And bringing your credit score down will drastically impact your ability to purchase and also to qualify for the grants I just mentioned.
I think they should just all buy $5 Starbucks gift cards for everybody and just call it a
Yes.
day. Say, hey, I'm buying a home. This is what you're getting. This
Yeah,
video is not endorsed or sponsored by Starbucks, by the way.
I'm
But
telling you, look, as I have my coffee, right?
now, how about for sellers? I'm sure, there are certain things like rent backs and all that stuff, but like how would you educate the seller? Like, hey, I'm sure you want to either upgrade or you're moving, relocating, whatever it is, or something happened and they need to sell the house. What would you do to prepare them to best position them so that because of low competition, there might be a little bit more negotiation going on or not. So how would you position them so that they come in here with the mindset of, okay, this is how I'm going to win in this situation?
Okay, so I talked a little earlier about the buy down instead of helping the seller. I'm sorry, instead of
Hmm.
helping the buyer with their closing costs, offering assistance with the buy down. Now, most sellers who have lived in their home for 20, 30 years or 10 years, they're probably saying, hey, I need to have someone help me with this grease on the cabinet, right? So we actually partner with a company that will allow the seller to have those repairs made in advance and pay
Okay.
for them at settlement. I would highly recommend that if you're, want to capitalize on the equity inside your home, but you just don't have the money to put in towards fixing up the property.
Yeah.
And this will also give you an edge on the competition. The
Mm.
reality is, if you've lived in the house, it's probably well loved, well lived. However, the next buyer coming in may not see that love. And so we want to make sure that the buyer sees that love. And so we may recommend some sprucing up. And that may mean, of course, being able to pay for those things deducted from your proceeds at settlement.
That's
I would
awesome.
also recommend for my sellers, it's a sidebar, don't be afraid of virtual staging. So you
Yeah.
may not have to declutter that kitchen. We may can do some fancy footwork and move that kitchen digitally.
Or move all the stuff around the house as we take pictures, right?
Exactly. We'll get it done. No worries.
So I want to end with just you sharing a little bit more about this great program that you shared, which is, I think you called it Ready Start.
Yes.
So I think it's a fantastic program. I'm sure some other, teams and companies have it, but if you could just allude and share a little bit about like what is that experience going to be like for a new home buyer, or maybe it's not a new home buyer, but they want to buy a home and it's been a few years and their scores are a little bit lower, or COVID hit and they had some unfortunate things that happened with their finances, or recession is looming, so certain things are happening. So can you just share a little bit about like what are they going to experience? As it's not, I'm sure it's not just your score is here, we're going to get you there. I'm sure there's a complete package that you're going to carry them through. So can you share a little bit more about that with the audience?
Sure, absolutely. So the Ready Start program actually came an idea of mine when I just thought about where I was when I first started buying my home. So I bought my first house in actually 2006, and I wish I had something like this when I started, so that I wouldn't have to start to stop. And what I
Hmm.
mean by start to stop, you're starting to buy your house, the lender pulls your credit, and skirt, you stopped. Okay. And at that point, you're trying to figure out now, how can I build credit? How can I repair my score? So the Ready Start program is actually when we have our preferred lender pull your credit report and do a one-to-one consultation for what needs to be done. That
Hmm.
credit report is also ran through a credit simulation where the
Hmm.
lender can predict your score if you were to take the steps that are recommended.
Hmm.
And based upon what those steps are, the credit analyzer kind of gives you a timeline. It'll say if the buyer does these 4 steps, they'll be ready in 3 months. Or if the buyer does these 5 steps, they'll be ready in 9 months. And
Hmm.
so, what we do as licensed realtors, we give you a call every 3 months to check on to make sure you've actually completed those steps that the
Hmm.
credit score simulator has actually done. And
Hmm.
if you agree and say, hey, you know what, I'm ready, I've completed the steps, then our lender does something called a rapid rescore. And that's
Hmm.
when we actually give you a new credit score in 5 to 7 days, which is much better than the average credit bureau when your score is actually updated every 30 days.
Yeah.
And so it's a really a great program, and most buyers should try to capitalize because it puts you in a good position. And now you have a plan. I find that most buyers are deterred because they just don't know where to start, and there's no plan in place to help them start.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's just, it all goes back to that main word of integrity, where you are not just trying to help people who are ready to buy a home or sell a home, but it goes back to what you said, is like, even when no one's seeing it, you're helping people get ready to buy a home by educating them and preparing them. I really love that.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I mean, it like just like that, I think almost 40 minutes flew by
Oh,
and
wow.
we had so much fun just talking about it. Shaylin, is there anything you want to share? Just last words, like where can they find you? I'm sure I'm going to, like I said, put your contact information right below this video, probably also on the screen, but what's the best way to connect with you and how to find you?
So the best way to connect with me is to shoot me an email. I promise I'll respond within 24 hours. Info, at integrityhometm.com. Once again, info at integrityhometm.com. I'm also pretty quick with text messages. If you want to shoot me a text message, I promise to respond. 443 Here's what I want to say. Here's the takeaway. I know I'm taking over your show, Chris, but here it is. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to say in this climate is to remain optimistic. A
Mm,
lot of times the media has a negative portrayal and say, hey,
yeah.
it's not a good time to buy. It's the worst history ever. I can promise you it's not that. Life and death is in the power of our tongue. So if you say it's going to be the worst experience, if you say I'm not going to find my dream home, if you say my home will never sell, if you say my house will sit on the market probably, then that will be your reality. So
Mm-hmm.
in this kind of climate, you can frame your reality by using positivity and taking
Mm.
positive steps towards moving towards buying your home or selling your home. Please don't let the media be your compass to dictate when you buy or sell. Connect with a licensed professional who can help give you that guidance.
Amen. I mean, media is all about monetizing on fear, and that's the last thing you want to do when buying a home.
That's
So,
right.
with that, yeah, stay positive, stay optimistic, because now is a great time to buy because low competition and partnering with a great realtor that knows how to partner with the seller or sell listing agent being able to partner with the buyer. I mean, Shaylin, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
today. I had so much fun just talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.
Time really flew by today. So
Yes, it
thank you again.
did.
All
Thank
right.
you as well, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take care.